Hi everyone. Good morning or happy Saturday. I hope all of you have like a good night's sleep because well, for most of us Saturday is a day off. So, hi. Welcome to another day. Okay, this is kind of strange. Um Hold on one second. Here. Okay, so welcome to another live Q&A from the Eat to Focus, and I'm Anna Tai. I'm the author of the book Eat to Focus, and hope most of you have already read it. Like I read it again. I think it's a pretty good book because it has a lot of good information on it. But anyway, so we'll continue with what we're doing last week. So every week I'll be reading some of your posts. That is on a question that you post in the Facebook group. So for those of you who's on the Instagram, if you're not a member of the um, I think it's not called It to Focus, but the Facebook group is actually called Natural Alternative ADHD Treatment. You can go ahead and go to Facebook and join that. If not, you can still put in question. You can post your question on Instagram, post your question on um, what's that, the Facebook page as well. But I usually generally find the question from the group, and I will try my best to find some of the questions because I'm not very organized today, so excuse me for that. It's okay. All right, so we're gonna get started. Let me push my laptop back a little bit so I have some space. Okay, so there is scrolling through the question last night and this morning. I noticed there's a lot of questions about supplements. So just want kind of um, give you a reminder. So for those of you who's on the Facebook group, inside the Facebook group, there is a guide. Once you're inside the group, there's a guide that I think I have 5 videos in there, like a video series. So you can go through all of that and you'll get all the information to get started. Or you can download, there's a free guide that we give out as well, which probably is in the welcome post that you first get. But anyway, so let's see. Let me get started. Okay. So I read. I want to answer this one because there's a lot of question about green tea. So I realize this method might not work for everyone, but a combination of caffeine and L-theanine in tea has tremendously helped my son. After 1 cup of tea in the morning, his take completely went away and he's been as calm and focused as ever. If you're interested, research it extensively. There are several published studies about a combination of caffeine and L-theanine for ADHD. At this point, I can't answer a ton of questions about it because I'm still learning. All I can say is that we saw a noticeable difference. Yeah, so these kind of posts are great. I like that people posting like things that they have tried and worked. So that's great. But also understand that is might be very individualized. But I think that question, so the tea that she's talking about, she didn't mention about what tea it is, but the tea generally that helps with ADHD or have that combination of caffeine and theanine is actually matcha green tea. So here I have my green tea every day, but this is the one where like I have the tea bag. So we're not really talking about this kind of tea. So if you want to get the most benefit of the matcha, the caffeine and the L-theanine, it is the matcha green tea, the powder stuff that the Japanese use. So, because this is just green tea, it's just the tea leaf, and then you pour water, and then you kind of get the taste out of it. But if you really want to get the actual real benefit of having that caffeine and L-theanine combination, actually you should try to get the matcha green tea, the powder stuff, and then It's like at Starbucks, you can order green tea latte. So they just blend up the matcha green tea with some milk. You can do that at home really easily. Just go to the store and get a bag of those matcha green tea powder. So the benefit, there's an article that I have that I wrote a while back on matcha versus caffeine or coffee. So the benefit of the matcha is that it has a lower caffeine content compared to coffee, and they also have the L-theanine. So the caffeine wakes you up, keep you focused, and then the L-theanine calms you down. Compared to using coffee, coffee have like a lot more caffeine in it. A cup of coffee, depending on the brew or the type of beans or how it is roasted, the caffeine range is between 65 to 100 milligrams of caffeine per cup. Like with matcha green tea is around 20, 30 milligrams of caffeine per cup. So that's the difference. But that doesn't mean that matcha is not as good. It's just the caffeine is less, but then you get that calming effect with the L-theanine. But caffeine or coffee doesn't have that L-theanine in it. So for some people, they get a really good boost of focus with the caffeine or the coffee, but then sometimes you can develop anxiety with that, with like that a little bit overstimulation. So that's the difference. And then another comment I want to put on this question is that like something like this with caffeine and the L-theanine combination, this is more like a brain booster versus something that is going to correct the underlying cause. So this is something good that you can have like on a as needed basis that, oh yeah, I have a test to study or I have a game that I have to go to, I need to focus. But but as far as like trying to fix the underlying cause, this is not going to be something that will help with that. And that's what with my book Eat to Focus is trying to get to the underlying cause of the ADHD and try to fix as much or correct any nutrient deficiency as much as possible. And yeah, I think one of the things with supplements, I see a lot of question about supplements. So I think most people concept perception of the supplements is that it is another pill to replace the more dangerous medication. So it's like going from one pill to another pill. But my approach that I teach in the inside my book with the Eat to Focus protocol is really trying to support your child or even you all your biology, how like basically supporting your body function and the brain function to bring up from like the lack of focus to a lot more focus, like from the inside. And yeah, that's kind of how I do it. Okay, let's see what's another questions we have. Um, okay, so this is an interesting one. So looking to find a supplement for my ADHD combined son and wondering what you all use and works with focus and stress in the classroom. I'm interested in something I can easily get on Amazon, not an MLM or direct sell things, as I've been spammed with that before from this group and others. I'm so sorry about that because I'm trying to screen out as much as possible all this troll getting into the group because I know there's a lot of people trying to get into this group and try and sell that garbage in the group. So I try to avoid that, but it's really hard because they disguise as regular human. Okay, so generally, so I'm also seeing like in the comments, people putting in things like ashwagandha, flaxseed, chia seeds, hemp hearts, B6, B12, protein powder, matcha, and then cinnamon also supposed to be great for brain function and focus. I'm going to start my son on that as well because that's one of the main things we have the biggest issues with. I guess is focus, brain function. Yeah, so like the way I see it is I see a lot of people how they're doing with the supplements is that they're kind of like just randomly going to a Facebook group and see what other people are trying and then they just like, okay, let me try this, let me try that. But that approach is gonna take a long time and gonna be very frustrating because it's like is that how they talk about it, like kissing a lot of toe before you actually find one that turns into prince. But unfortunately, that does not happen, right? Like it's it's just a fairy tale. Like no toad's gonna turn into prince. So so I try to help you guys with a more efficient way of doing this is actually understanding the whole brain function thing, how the brain and the body works, how a child nutrition, how to support a child nutrition. That's kind of how I teach in here, and I give you all the resources inside the group to get started. So that way you don't like go around like trying random stuff and then see what works. But anyway, so those all that things that I just listed, they all work. But then there's a system of how to make it be more efficient because ashwagandha. So these are all herbal stuff. Ashwagandha, rhodiola, ginseng, ginkgo. All of these are great herbal supplements that helps with focus. But then again, it's like some of the other things focus is really easy to fix. Like if you just find some kind of like stimulant type of herbal stuff, you can easily get the focus in. But the thing is all the other stuff like the mood swing, the anxiety, and all of those things, right? So all of those you have to look back into the body function and the brain function. It's like people don't realize that the brain is actually an organ that also use nutrients, just like the heart. So in our body, the heart and our brain is actually the most metabolically active organs, meaning that those two organs use a lot of nutrition and resources. Like our brain here, this 3 pounds thing sitting up here, that takes up only about 2% of our body weight, actually use 20% of the nutrition that we took in. So if you think of it that way, the brain is using so much resources. And then if you look at like what we're feeding ourselves and our kids every day, like the food that you eat, is it supporting the ADHD brain, right? It takes 20% of your energy each day. So if you start thinking of it that way, then you start understanding some of the behavior that you see in your kids or even in yourself, like those mood swings and anxiety and stuff like that. Because our default setting is always like just stressing out. But if you notice, some of you might have noticed, if you sleep well, you have a good meal, you feel so good because everything is working. And then I think I saw a post earlier, someone mentioned about eating some pizza and then they turn like they just lost their focus completely. Like we need to understand that what we put in our body, not just what kind of supplements to use, but the type of food affects how our body function. And if our body is not functioning well, our brain is not going to function well. So um, that's kind of one of the things that we need to also look into is the supplements. Like the supplements is going to help. And the supplement by itself, just looking at the term, it means to supplement something. It is not a replacement. So we need to understand that we still need to focus on our food intake, like where are we getting our food from? Is the food going to meet the needs of a growing child and also meet the needs of your daily needs as well? So yeah, basically what I want to say is to summarize everything is all of these help, but ultimately you have to make sure that your diet is all dialed in. You have like a clean diet as much as you possibly can handle, and then also try to eliminate any kind of hidden sensitivities and any hidden sensitivities, and especially like with a lot of food additives and colorings as well. That's kind of one of the things that I haven't talked about a lot the last few months, but I've seen a couple posts today and from last night that there is people talking about like colorings and stuff like that. So which led us to the next post here. So my son is severely sensitive to artificial colors and flavors. He even reacts to annatto and caramel color, which is flaunted as natural and is in almost everything. He gets extremely violent, defiant, like he's having a bad reaction to drugs. The effects last days, every ADHD symptoms also becomes amplified. Do you think this sensitivity is part of ADHD or additional? Yep, this is definitely part of ADHD. Okay, I'm probably spend a little bit more time on this post because it touched on many different points. Okay, so like I talk about on my blog and inside my book, I talk about different type of, or at least 5 or 6 causes of ADHD. So we need to understand that. So this is like kind of the labeling of the ADHD. So the way that we're treating ADHD is that we're just labeling anyone who have this list of symptoms. So if you meet all of these symptoms, you check the box for all these symptoms, you're going to get the label of ADHD. But the way that we should be actually looking at it is that the symptoms of lack of focus, the lack of um, focus, impulsivity, hyperactivity, and then all this anxiety and depression that comes along with ADHD, rather than focusing on you have this label and let's find a medication or find a supplement to match that and to control it, we should actually look at these symptoms as just symptoms. These are symptoms that is telling us that, hey, maybe something in there is not functioning correctly. Like in kids, when kids have ADHD, we often focus on like, oh, they can't focus, they're hyper, and they can't sit still, and they're impulsive. But in adult, it's the same thing, but we use different terms. In adults, we often say that, oh, I have brain fog. So when adults say it's brain fog, it's the same thing as in kids that they have no focus. So there's a lot of parallel between like kids and adults. And in the adults, you might not see an adult jumping on chairs or jumping on table, but you'll see that they tends to be like they have more like random hand movements like touching things or their leg shaking or things like that, or like the lack of focus part. Like kids can't tell you that they have racing thoughts in their heads, but they're like constantly thinking 1,000 miles in the head. But same as in adult too, right? Like some adults have like thousands racing thoughts going on. So those are the inattention part. but but basically, we need to look at ADHD as a bunch of symptoms. And with these symptoms, we should look inside and say, hey, where's these symptoms coming from? So if we're seeing things like in kids, like the hyperactivity and the impulsivity, those are all impulse and control. So that's all the prefrontal cortex. And then the lack of focus is like the brain not able to focus. So then the question is, why is the brain not able to focus? And there are a few reasons for that, right? The brain not able to focus probably could be because the brain's not getting the energy that it needs. And then the impulsivity could be the prefrontal cortex is a bit more, which is true in the ADHD brain. But basically, we have to look inside and see what's the cause of all these symptoms, and rather than try to fix it as a diagnosis. So, like in this post that I just read, is sensitivity to a lot of the food additives, which is one of the possible cause of ADHD. So we need to remember that the cause of ADHD for each person is very individualized, and it's not all based on one item that you might be sensitive to or have issue with. It's usually a combination of one of the 5 or 6 causes. And actually there are more causes to it, but I only focus on the few causes that can be improved and fixed, or improved, or fixed with having a better diet and correcting nutritional deficiency. So okay, so yeah, definitely some people are more sensitive to food additives. A lot of times people think that when it comes to food, is only food allergy. They could only be sensitive or allergic to the food, but that is not true. A lot of times it's the additive that is added to the food, like the things that you don't know how to read. Like even I don't know how to read most of those things. Like there's what BHT and something BPA, so that's this phospho A. And then a lot more. So just think of it, right? Like if we look at the human body or human biology, the human biology haven't changed that much since like gazillion years ago. We're still pretty much the same human as like our caveman ancestor. So, but then our food have changed so much, like manufacturer putting so much garbage in our food that doesn't need to be there. And the only reason why they add those chemicals in our food is basically to make the food last longer, stay on the shelf longer. So this is the rule number one is if the food can stay on the shelf for 2, 3 years, that means that the food doesn't even rot. Do you really think that our body can digest it? Probably not. So that's like a sign that, hey, you probably should put that back on the shelf and it doesn't belong in your body, right? Because the only way that the food that our body can use the food is if the food is digested, if we can able to digest the food and eat it. And that's something to think about is when like you probably heard of people saying that you are what you eat, but which is kind of partly true, right? But the more important point is that you're actually what you can digest. You can eat all kinds of things you want, but if your digestion doesn't work and you cannot break down the food properly, it doesn't matter where you eat like the best food in the world, like the most organic, most clean food, and the best with the most like nutritious food. If you can break it down and get that nutrients out, it doesn't do you any good. It only rots in your intestine and feeds the bad bacteria and cause all this toxin in your body. But yeah, so anyway, so food, so with the sensitivity to food is that you need to keep in mind that your body or your child's body can be sensitive to not only the food itself, but you could also be sensitive to the additive that is added to the food. And that's something very important to remember is because I always get parents coming and ask me, can we do a food allergy testing? And my answer is usually no, especially if it's like a young child and the child's just afraid of needle. I was like, not gonna put the child through that because I know most of the time the blood test is gonna come back negative. Because if it's a true food allergy, you will notice the difference, the the reaction right away. Because true food allergy, you see the reaction within a couple hours or immediately. So, but it's all the hidden food sensitivity that we're looking at. And those tests is only as accurate as the test item. So if your child is allergic to something that is not on the list of things tested in the test, you're still not going to find anything. So the best way to find it is to do a food challenge, is to do not a food challenge, a food journal, and then a challenge after that. So yeah, so you could be sensitive to that and totally normal, especially if you have family history. So when it comes to food sensitivity, one of the questions I always ask is anyone in the family sensitive or allergic to anything? And usually there is. Once in a while, I might get a kid who's like allergic to a bunch of stuff, but then both parents and both sides of the family have no food allergy. So sometimes we'll have some random stuff. But usually if a child have like food sensitivity or things that this like chemical sensitivity, usually one of the family members have something like that as well. Like one of the patient that I recently saw, like poor baby is like 15, like under 2 years old, like screaming and crying every day and then waking up every night and parents don't know what's wrong. The doctor didn't know what's wrong, but what the parents kind of know is that every time he eats certain food, he'll break out in a whole face or sometimes the whole body. So, but the doctor did all the tests, everything was negative. They can't figure out what's wrong with the child. So the doctor basically told the parents, like, hey, it might be, I don't know what's wrong with your child. It might be just all in your head because every test comes back negative. So the doctor didn't know what to do, but they're like, oh, let's just send you to the dietitian and have her figure it out with you guys. So they came to me. I got some history, like get some history of what the child usually eats and get some family history from both parents. So came to find out mom have like autoimmune disorder. So usually with autoimmune disorder, there's a lot of reaction to food as well. And then dad and couple other relatives have like many chemical sensitivity. Nothing really with food, but mostly like chemicals in the food, like food colorings, and then and some other chemical stuff I don't remember. It's like really random. Oh, and cinnamon. Actually, cinnamon is a very common substance that people are sensitive to. So, but anyway, so I help this family figure out what the child is allergic to or sensitive to. And again, like a lot of this food sensitivity does not show up in blood tests or skin tests. So the best way is just do observation. So we figure out that this kid is sensitive to milk because like when they were doing food journal, every time he has milk, he'll breaks out, and then towards the end of the day, as more and more of the things he is sensitive to is added to his diet, his rash gets worse and worse overnight, and his pain also get worse as well. So that's something to remember is that food allergy is not limited to only food substance, but also could be the artificial things that are added to the food. And the other thing is that natural, because I think she mentioned about natural. There's a lot of things that is natural. I actually meant to put a post out to talk about this because you need to be careful when someone says, "Oh yeah, it's natural." Like remember, not everything natural is good for our body. Natural only means that it is minimally manipulated by another human or manipulated in the lab or genetically changed. That's what natural means. Natural means that it is as close to its natural origin as possible, not manipulated. And that's what really natural means. It doesn't mean that it is better for the human being. Um, because we need to be a smarter human. Because if we look at what's natural, so like what's natural is eating a piece of meat straight from the butcher, or eating vegetables and fruits straight from the farmer's market from the farm. That's natural. But we also have to remember there are other things that are natural that could be harmful, like cyanide, arsenic, and venom. So all those things are natural as well, right? But they're poisonous and poison ivy. We're not going to like just think that those are good for us because it's natural. Just remember, natural only means where the food comes from. It doesn't mean that it's always good for us. So you need to be careful when manufacturers, especially companies, use the natural terms in their product. So yeah, that's my little spiel on what's natural because that really drives me crazy. Every time people will come to me and say, "Oh, I just found this supplement, it's natural." I was like, okay, like it only means where it comes from. Okay, does anyone else brain ever start to feel kind of fuzzy and like it's really hard to process things after you've been working hard on something for a while? I'm starting to notice how easily I get burnt out and exhausted from work or anything really and don't know how to help it. Like my brain will literally feel like a dying battery, but I'm I still have to do my work. So I usually just push through and end up making more mistakes. Any tips? Yes, definitely. I think you kind of answer your question right there because you just say um, my brain will literally feel like a dying battery, and that's exactly what's happening in your brain. So I mentioned earlier about how your brain actually is an organ just like your heart, your liver, that uses resources. So repeating myself again. So your brain, this tiny 3 pounds brain on your head, that takes only 2-3% of your body weight, uses 20% of energy of your daily energy needs or intake. So if you're working on long hours, just like your workout, right? Like you get tired running a marathon. So like for a fast runner, the canyon runners, they finish a marathon in 2.5 hours. Like for me, it takes me like 6 hours to finish a marathon. But in that 6 hours of me running the marathon, I have to keep refilling myself because my muscle is going to run out of resources. And the same thing with your brain as well. So if you're focusing, doing work that requires a lot of attention and sustained focus, your brain is using so much energy and resources. So it's just think every time that you're at work using your brain for that long sustained period of time, your brain is actually running a marathon. So you need to make sure that you have some snacks with you at your desk, or um, something that you can refill quickly. It doesn't have to be like a meal, because if you have a busy job, you don't have time to take like half an hour to an hour to sit down for a meal, maybe just something simple. It's like when I'm running my marathon, I usually have like little snack and food in my backpack that I run with, and I just eat something every like 45, 60 minutes to refill my body. And that's really what you need if you have to work long hours and not have time to eat. Is having some healthy snacks by your desk and just eat every like 2 or 3 hours if that's how you feel like. Because sometimes too, when you're so focused on working on something, you kind of get into that hyper focus or the stress state. So all the other organs kind of shut down, like your digestion and other things. So you might notice that you don't feel hungry and you don't feel like going to the bathroom. But then when you're done with work and your body start to relax, like all that stress level come down, you're more relaxed, you suddenly notice that, oh my God, I'm starving. Or you feel like, oh my God, why do I have to go to a bathroom so much? Because your body is holding or suppressing all these other functions, so you can use reserve all that resource to go to your brain to finish whatever job that you have. So like tips for this advice, like I said, try to have some healthy snacks um, at your desk, and take a little bit of break too, because um, getting up from the desk just for every 1 minute will help, kind of with the help circulation with the brain as well, because our body is meant to move. So if you don't move enough, that can also affect the brain function and function of everything else. And actually, there are articles that comes out and saying that sitting is the new smoking. Like they making sitting sound so bad. Like if you sit all day, you're doing as much harm to your body as you're smoking. So yeah, get up and move. And if you have an Apple Watch, it actually reminds you to stand up every so often. I find it quite annoying, but at least it gets you up, because it gives you a notification telling you that you have to stand up for 1 minute. So sometimes I'll listen, I'll get up and then stand for a minute or go walk around and come back. Sometimes if I'm just so focused on finishing my last sentence, I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to skip that. You can remind me again later. But yeah, that's definitely you already describing all the things that you should know. Is like, yep, your battery is dying. That's what your brain is telling you. Okay, what's next? Okay, this is another one that I think goes along with like all the yucky stuff that they put in our food. So here, this diet thing for ADHD is real stuff. Yeah, I've been trying to tell you guys that. Okay, I knew that having grown up with ADHD, but I wanted to share. Thank you so much for sharing, because we all need to learn from each other. I cook most of what we eat, fresh vegetables and meat. She's allergic to red meat. I'll comment on that later. Fresh vegetables and meat and grains, perfect. So yesterday I was feeling particularly impulsive despite my meds and everything. So I got a $5 pizza from Little Caesars by my office. The fact that the pizza costs only $5 should be a sign that you should stay away from. And afterwards, it felt like I hadn't been on meds in months. I made some coffee to balance myself back out when I got home around 5:30 so I could focus on making dinner without singing and waking up my baby. Good for you, singing when you make dinner. That's so fun. So the last sentence here is don't eat the pizza from LC, I guess Little Caesar. Thank you so much for sharing this post, because we need to all learn that how um, our food choices can interfere with our brain function. And just remember, one more thing is, even though we're so focused on our brain function, a lot of it will also have to take good care of our heart. So any kind of things that you can do that is good for the heart is going to be good for the brain. So definitely little scissors not going to be good. And the thing is, people might think that, oh yeah, pizza, isn't pizza good food because it's like a complete meal. You have like protein, you have the carbs, you have vegetables. But yeah, they're all in the wrong proportion because you get mostly carbs, and then vegetables is more like a sprinkle, and then the meat is like you have to look at it, find them with a microscope. So no, that's not a perfect food. It has all the component, but they're all in the wrong proportion. So, and the other thing is that, so breaking down the pizza into why it's good and why it's not is, why it's bad in this case is that, first of all, the pizza, the dough, the gluten is, a lot of people with ADHD symptoms is sensitive to is the gluten, and 15% of people with ADHD also have celiac disease. Second thing is the cheese. Cheese is not good for the ADHD brain as well. Actually, both gluten and cheese or dairy product, they turns into something called casomorphin or gliadorphin. So these act like, um, what's that thing called? It acts similar to morphine and attached to the same place that the morphine goes to. So it stimulates your brain, gives you that morphine high, and then also give you that addictive effects, just like any morphine or opioids. So that's why a lot of people are will say something like, "Oh my God, I love cheese. I'm addicted to cheese." And if you look at all these fast food commercials and places like Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, and like all these other junk food places, they put a lot of cheese in the food is because they know that cheese is addicting. The other thing too is, the Dairy Council actually try to push cheese. And if you still believe that milk is something very important in your diet, you should start rethinking and actually educate yourself. In the book, what's it called? China Study. You should read this book, the book China Study, or I think on Netflix there's a documentary. I don't remember if the name of the documentary is called China Study as well. It might be a different name. But anyway, um, all this recommendation for human to drink cow's milk is all from the nutrition committee, and all the people who sit on the committee are actually, um, not scientists. Unfortunately, there's a few scientists in it, but it's a lot of people from the different industries. So the dairy council person is in it, and then the meat people, and then yeah, so basically the whole, all this recommendation that we get from the government is all recommendation from food manufacturer. And of course the whole purpose is not for our health, even though that's what they try and make us believe, that hey, we'll make all this recommendation to make sure that the Americans are healthy. But it's actually, all the recommendations are based on profit benefit for the food manufacturer. And yeah, really, there's no point of us eating. Well, there is one simple point. The only point to eat dairy product is because it tastes good. Other than that, there's no health benefit to it. Um, yeah, so all of these, government recommendations on health and nutrition is mostly made by people who have a company to run and have to make millions of dollars. So they're actually making money on our health. And when you think that, oh yeah, eating healthy is expensive and eating all this junk food is so cheap, is really not cheap. If you think about it, you're paying with it with your health. People often try to get like free things and cheap stuff, but they don't realize that what they're giving up is, when you get free food or free whatever, you're giving up your freedom. When you're eating cheap food, you're paying for it with your health. You just don't pay with it now and don't realize it. You pay for it like 10, 20 years down the road, or maybe sooner in this person's case. Like, you pay for it immediately after. So is it worth it, right? Like can you spend that $5 on something that is better? And for sure, yes. Like And then again, people often think that eating healthy is expensive, but the truth is it is not. It is actually okay. This is strange. There's a request. Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's this whole idea that eating healthy is expensive, but it is really not that expensive. Like you can buy a whole bag of like a family size Doritos for $5, but then really what you're getting out of it, other than like over 2,000 calories of just empty calories. Or you can spend that same $5 on a basket of strawberries and you can eat the whole basket and not feel guilty or feel ashamed. In fact, after you eat that whole thing of strawberries, you feel so much better, like physically and mentally, because you're like, oh my God, I just ate strawberries. I feel so proud of myself, right? Rather than eating that $5 bag of Doritos that just give you probably some stomach ache after, and then like lack of focus and irritation and all of those things. So yep, so make better choice and learn from this person. My thing is always that if someone else have a lesson for you to learn from that lesson, learn from that mistake, so you don't have to learn it. Even though it's totally okay to learn from mistakes, and that's how we become better each day, but it doesn't hurt that you make your own mistakes and learn from your own mistakes, but also learn from other people's mistakes, because that way you'll get to where you want to a lot faster. Okay. Here, I'll start here. I have a 10-year-old who has ADHD who live in Canada. I was wondering if anyone else does and uses supplements here. Yes, definitely. I have gone through posts and I can't get any of the supplements here that have them all in one. Yep, that's the problem. A lot of the supplements that I recommend, they don't come in one. Um, and that's why like sometimes like parents will tell me, oh, that seems like a lot of vitamins to give, because I usually recommend a fish oil, a zinc, and then magnesium. So those are usually the first three that I start with. But a lot of times parents will be like, "Oh, that seems like a lot," and then after a while I start realizing something like, okay, these are things that your body needs. Like, why are you complaining that it's too much? But then it's okay that your child eats like chicken nuggets and hot dogs and pizza every meal, and that's not too much. Like, so I think we need to learn to think in better terms. Like our we just finished talking about how food affects us, so we need to start thinking in terms of doing more of what's good for us. So giving your child 3 pills a day, I don't think is too much. It's just that probably you're not used to giving your child um, stuff in a pill form. So we just need to think of that narrative differently. And like I said, eating like things that comes out from a box 3 times a day, that's way too much. So yeah, different thinking. Okay, so he was on 5 ends that ended up causing him heart problems. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And I stopped it right away. Then his doctor prescribed him bifenton, never heard of it, but as I did research, I saw that it doesn't work well with thyroid, and he is on medication for that. His teacher and support are constantly emailing me about him, and I do not want to see him struggle any longer as he also has an learning disability. Now I'm looking for anything that will help. He isn't one that is physically on the go, but his brain is constantly. Thank you in advance. Okay, so many things to answer here. So Vyvanse is an ADHD medication, is a brand name. So she talks about heart problems. So actually, I posted something a while back that freaks people out because I mentioned how like ADHD medication causes heart problems or death from heart problems, and it's a true thing. And I think a lot of people or the medical side, they try to subside that, because originally when I found that report, it is actually a report put out by FDA. So FDA do maintain a list. So every time a patient who's on certain medication and have an adverse reaction, like anything that is life-threatening, they have to report it. So it's a voluntary reporting. So if your doctor so in this case, the doctor who prescribed this medication and caused that problem should have reported that incident. So all of this is like public notice, public information, and everyone can easily put that up. So that's what the FDA does many years ago, and it's actually public on the website. That was about 10 years ago when I started writing about ADHD. So so they reported in that year. Remember now, is all these are voluntary reporting, so it's not mandatory that they have to do this. So when I was researching this, they were showing that there's something like okay, pardon me for not remembering all the numbers solidly, but there is reported numbers of death in kids who is taking ADHD medication. And then a few years later, they actually took all that information off from that website and replaced it with like this other bullshit study from Kaiser that they did, that they show that, oh, the ADHD medication actually don't cause that many deaths as we thought. But the way, um, actually, I have to find that studies again. Then I'll maybe make another post or another video about that. The way that the studies show is that, oh yeah, we look at 2 million people who's on ADHD medication, but like out of like the 2 million, there's only so many people have like adverse reaction or heart problems, and then the way that they report the numbers is like, why are you reporting the numbers like this? It doesn't make sense, right? So, okay, I've been a registered dietitian for like over 20 years. I've read enough studies and all those things, and I've never seen anyone report like incidents per year. So then when they manipulate the numbers, and for someone who's not really like thinking, like for a layperson reading that studies, they're like, oh wow, okay, that I guess it doesn't seem to be that much. But then if you like re or and manipulate all those numbers out, the numbers is actually quite significant. But like I said, I can't quite give you all the numbers off the top of my head, but I do remember that the the highlight of the study is that they're like, oh, our study subject population is like over 2 million people. So but because Kaiser is a huge organization, so they have organizations all over the country. So they can have like 2 million people included in the study. So yeah, that was the fun part. And like I said, I'll remind myself. Actually, let me write that down. Look up Kaiser study. Yeah, so that's actually something that I want to talk about is the ADHD medication today, but I don't know if I have time. But let me see what's next on the list. Okay, did I do this already? I think I did. 6 year. Okay, yeah, we've read this one already. Here, so my son is 6 with ADHD, ODD, and anxiety. Um, just a quick little comment on that. So, like with the ADHD, we noticed that there's a lot of people also have a coexisting condition like ODD, anxiety, and things like that. And again, like I mentioned in the very beginning, is that I like to look at ADHD symptoms as symptoms showing that something else might be happening in the body. And recently, I talked to one parent. Her doctor kind of told her that the son might have underlying undiagnosed ADHD all these years that might have caused the anxiety and depression. But in my opinion, the ADHD is a lot more less severe condition than the anxiety and depression. And the reason why I say that it is less severe is because the ADHD symptoms, the lack of focus and the hyperactivity could actually be part of the symptoms of the anxiety and depression. Because again, looking at ADHD as symptoms versus an actual diagnosis is that why is the child suddenly not able to focus and suddenly not able to sit still, right? And if you think about those things, part of it is the stress response, like the fight, flight, or freeze response, right? When you're at stress level, when you're constantly trying to survive, you're probably not trying to focus on how to do homework. You're probably trying to focus on like all the things around you to look for danger and try to avoid that. So sometimes like we have to look at like if your child also have all these other condition like anxiety and ODD and all these other stuff, is like the anxiety is more of a worrying, right? So we have to look at the environment. Like, why is your child always like worrying? Like, what's he worrying? Is there something happening in his life or something happening in school or things like that? So basically, I just want to say that try to look at the whole child together rather than just focusing on, oh yeah, I need to change the diet, need to change the supplements or medication, but also look at not just what goes into your child body, but also the environment. What's the emotional input of the environment? Okay, so continue. He is taking magnesium, zinc, multivitamin, and probiotic. Perfect. So those are all the good ones, except we need to look into the magnesium or the multivitamin, see what exactly is in it. We have cut out dyes and sugars and almost all dairy so far. We have found most replacement for non-dairy items except a few. I'm looking for a recommendation for good non-dairy cheese and yogurt, ideally with low or no sugar. We are also working slowly to be gluten-free and looking for a good bread, tortilla, and pancake mix, please. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I have recommendations for all those. And if you go to eat2focus.com, and or act okay, here I'll put the resource link. Okay, you can either go to the eat2focus.com and there should be a link where you can get to a resource link, or you might say shop, I don't remember what's in it. Or if you're on Instagram, you go to my profile in the bio link, you can click on that link and it'll take you to the resource where I kind of put together all the things that I recommend, like food and supplements that I have in my Amazon shopping cart. Not my shopping cart, it's just the Amazon list. So you can just go through there and scan through the list and find things that you're looking for. Um, and then as far as dairy cheese, so I don't know where you're located, but the non-dairy cheese that I like is the Daya brand. It's called let me think, DAIYA. That's the brand that I like. They make a lot of dairy-free product. They do make dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free pizza that actually tastes good. But again, you cannot try eat a gluten-free and dairy-free pizza and try compare it to Papa John or Pizza Hut. It's not gonna work. You just eat the pizza, just like, okay, I'm just eating this pizza. That's it. But it still tastes good. It doesn't feel like you're eating cardboard. That's the nice thing. And then gluten-free bread stuff. So with a lot of times I recommend my parents or my family to go on like a paleo diet. Not really actually be on a paleo diet. You can still follow that, but borrow recipes from the paleo diet, because the paleo is actually dairy-free, grain-free, which includes the the gluten product in there as well. And then let me see what else is free in the paleo. So paleo is mostly dairy free and grain free. Yeah. So the paleo diet is a good way to start. So you can go on Pinterest and then find recipes from there. And actually, I have a Pinterest as well that I collect a lot of recipes in there. So if you want to go, you can go on Pinterest and look for Eat to Focus. And that's where I store all my recipes in there. And then what else? Oh, gluten-free bread. Okay, so I kind of gave up on gluten-free bread because they're all just disgusting. So I don't eat bread at all, and I don't miss it. Like before, we have a Subway in our hospital, and every time when Subway they make bread, you can smell the bread, the smell of the bread. It used to smell so good to me. But then after many years of like dealing with the pain with eating gluten stuff, that smell doesn't even like entice me anymore. In fact, it just grows me out now. So yeah, I don't care for bread anymore and I don't miss it. There is tortilla that is gluten free, so you can look for the paleo version of paleo tortilla. And usually I prefer the paleo diet over the ketogenic diet because the ketogenic diet, even though it's low carbs and technically gluten free, but it still have a lot of junk in it. So I don't like the ketogenic diet because a lot of the junk that is allowed on the ketogenic diet actually increase inflammation, which actually um, suppress brain function because when your brain is swollen, it's not going to function very well. So stay away from a lot of the ketogenic food. But the paleo is generally the diet that I recommend. And then what else? Tortilla pancake mix, and again there is a paleo pancake mix. Um, what's that one called? Birch. I think the birch. So that pancake mix actually tastes pretty good, but so I've tried the the pumpkin one and the plain one. Go for the pumpkin one. That's the one that is good. The other one doesn't. The other one tastes like egg. So you might as well just find a recipe because there are recipes that um, paleo recipes where you can blend like a mashed and a banana and eggs and mash it together and make a pancake. I haven't tried that yet because I'm not too much of a pancake fan. But if any one of you have tried that, post it in the blog or share with us because I want to know. Because I'm not a cooking person, but I try. You've seen some of my cooking posts. Okay, so looks like that's all we have. Oh wow, how come my oh, okay. I'm looking at the time. I was like, how come my time is different? But all right, I think that's all we have today. And then, like I said, I'm answering questions from the Facebook group. But for those of you on Instagram, you can always comment your question in the comment section or just message me privately. And then in the Facebook group side, continue post questions. Periodically I go in to answer some questions. I'm sorry I cannot answer everyone's question because the group is getting really big. I don't think I can answer all the questions in one day. So, but I try. Usually, what I do is I go in a Facebook group, scan through all the questions, and get like the common ones, and then I answer it on Saturday. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you all again next Saturday. Okay. All right. Bye and bye this side.